Black woman trapped with her millionaire ex-husband in a storm. Then everything changes. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from today. Serafina Hall stood in the busy airport. She stared at the big screen that showed all the flights. Every single one was canceled. A surprise snowstorm had come, and now no planes could take off. Serafina held her big folder tight. Inside it were the papers for her most important presentation ever. She needed to get to the Silver Pine retreat in the mountains, where important investors were waiting to hear about her new idea for a creative school and media center. Serafina looked at her phone again and again, hoping to find another way to get there. An airline worker said kindly, "The roads are getting very dangerous now." Suddenly, the airport door opened with a loud whoosh. A cold wind rushed in. Serafina looked up and froze. Standing in the doorway was Elias Vance, her ex-husband. Snowflakes melted on his fancy coat. His gray eyes were just the same as before, though he now had some silver in his hair. Elias wasn't just a filmmaker anymore. He was now a billionaire and the boss of a huge media company. He had once chosen his career over her. They stared at each other. Everything else disappeared. Then Elias walked toward her with the same strong steps that always made her heart beat faster. "I have a Range Rover outside with snow tires," he said calmly. "I'm going to Silver Pine too." Serafina blinked. Memories came rushing back, like the day she left their home without saying goodbye. She had left her keys on the kitchen counter and walked away forever. But now, here they were, together again. The man and woman who had once loved each other, now trapped in a snowstorm. Have you ever been stuck with someone who once broke your heart? What would you do if fate brought you face to face with the past? If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our Royal Story family. Your special seat in our magical kingdom of stories is ready for you. Hello again, Royal Story family. Gather close as the storm winds blow outside. Today's story is about two people who once dreamed big dreams together, but life pulled them apart. Now, nature has brought them back together. Will they get a second chance? This story was inspired by your lovely comments on our last video. You shared your stories about love lost and found again. They touched my heart. So today, we ask a big question. Can people truly change after they become successful? Can you chase big dreams without losing the people you love? Tell us where you're watching from. Is it snowy and cold like our story today, or warm and sunny? Now let's continue. The big Range Rover moved slowly through the thick snow. The windshield wipers worked quickly to clear the snow, but it kept coming. Inside the car, it was very quiet. Serafina and Elias didn't talk. So many feelings filled the space between them. Serafina thought hard. Should she stay quiet and keep the walls she built around her heart? Or should she talk politely, like strangers do? Both choices felt wrong. After all, they used to know everything about each other. She finally said, "I'm surprised to see you flying like a regular person. No private jet today, Mr. Big CEO?" Elias gave a small smile. "I still use private planes for faraway trips, but for this one, I wanted something different." He turned the car carefully around a slippery bend and said, "After our divorce, I saw that I had built too many walls. Private jets, special hotel rooms, red carpets, they all kept me far from real people. And I tell stories about real people. That didn't feel right." Serafina looked at him. This was not the Elias she remembered, the one who only cared about success. He was changing. But was it real? "I saw that your community center won a big award," Elias said. "It was smart how you built art rooms and health spaces together." Serafina looked out the window at the snow. "Thank you. It was a hard project, but I'm proud of what it's done for that neighborhood." "You always knew how to make spaces that help people connect," Elias said. He sounded proud of her. Serafina turned a little toward him. He looked different now, but also the same. His clothes were very fancy, but he had lines near his eyes. He had lived a life without her, and she had built a new one without him. "How long has it been?" Elias asked. 5 years. 2 months, Serafina answered before she could stop herself. She didn't want him to know she had counted. The wipers made a soft, steady sound. Memories came back. She remembered the first time they met. She had shared her wild new idea for a media building. The board didn't like it, but Elias had stood up and said, "This is what we need." That moment changed everything. They stayed up late talking about how buildings and stories were both ways to help people feel, learn, and connect. They fell in love. Elias gave her sweet gifts and made time for her. He truly saw her. Their marriage was beautiful. Until it wasn't. As Elias's company grew, he was always busy. He missed birthdays, dinners, and holidays. "Just one more project," he would say. "Things will calm down soon." But they never did. Then her dad had a heart attack. Elias said he'd fly home, but he didn't. She stood alone at the funeral, waiting for messages that came too late. That night, she packed her things. She cried as she folded the scarf he got her from Tokyo and the sweater from their trip to Scotland. She was done. Elias's voice brought her back to now. "This media campus you designed, it's amazing. The way it mixes studios with places for the public, it's what we need." Serafina sat up straighter. "It's an important project. It matches my dream to make places where people create and connect." What she didn't say, this was her biggest project ever. She was nervous. If it went well, it would make her firm famous. Elias nodded. "I saw your music building in Chicago. It was brilliant." "You were there?" Serafina asked. "I stayed in the back. I didn't want to make things awkward for you, but I had to see it. The way you built rooms for different kinds of music, it was perfect." Serafina felt something warm in her heart. She quickly pushed the feeling away. She couldn't fall for him again. Could she? Elias added, "Your city center with the gardens, other people are trying to copy it. You're changing the world." Serafina smiled a little. "And you're changing too. That show you made about architects helping people after disasters, it's used in schools now." Elias looked surprised and happy. "You watched it?" "I watched all your big projects," she said quietly. "Always alone, telling myself it was just for work." They both felt it now, that pull between them. Neither had truly let go. They had been far apart, but still connected. The snow kept falling. It was hard to see the road. Elias leaned forward, trying to see through the white storm. Finally, they saw the big stone gate of Silver Pine Retreat, but something was wrong. "There should be people here," Elias said, "helping with cars." No one was there. He parked by the front steps and they ran inside, snow blowing behind them. The big hall was dark, only a few small lights were on. A staff person ran to them. "Mr. Vance, Miss Hall, thank goodness you're safe. Everyone else was evacuated because of the storm, and the road behind you is now closed." "Evacuated?" Serafina asked. "What about the other executives, the presentation team?" A young man stood near the door and shook his head. "No one else made it here before the road closed," he said. "The weather people say a big snowstorm is coming. It will take at least 2 days before the roads are safe again." Elias and Serafina looked at each other. They were in a big house on top of a snowy mountain. Now they were all alone. The man continued, "I turned on the emergency systems. The generator has fuel, there's lots of food, and the fireplaces are ready. But I have to go now. The last snowcat is waiting for me." Then he left. And just like that, Elias and Serafina were alone. The big retreat house suddenly felt very quiet and strange. Elias said with a small smile, "Well, looks like we have time to talk." Serafina stood in the middle of the room, still trying to understand what had just happened. "I can't believe this is real," she whispered, watching Elias build a fire in the big stone fireplace. "I was supposed to show my project tomorrow morning." Elias nodded. "With this storm, I don't think anyone will come. Maybe not for a few days." Serafina looked at him carefully. "Elias, are you here just for the project, or—" She stopped. She didn't know how to ask the question. Elias looked into her eyes. "I'm not just here for the project," he said. "I'm the main person giving money for it." Serafina felt shocked. What? Why didn't you tell me? Elias explained, I used one of my other companies and I didn't want people to know it was me. I wanted your ideas to stand on their own, not because we used to be married. Serafina got upset. So all this time, I was working so hard and you already knew everything. You already knew everything? Was this your big plan? To surprise me like in one of your movies? Elias frowned. Serafina, I didn't make a snowstorm just to trap you here. Yes, I knew you would be coming, but I didn't plan any of this. Serafina shook her head. Real life isn't a movie, Elias. Suddenly, the lights went out. Everything was dark except for the fire. Uh-oh, Elias said. The storm must have broken a power line. We need to turn on the generator. For the next hour, they worked together without talking much. Elias went to the basement to turn on the generator. Serafina found candles and lanterns. In the basement, Serafina stood next to Elias while he worked. She could still smell his cologne. It was the same as before. It made her remember the old days, how he used to hug her in the mornings, how safe she had felt with him, before work and dreams pulled them apart. Hold the light steady, Elias said, looking at the wires. Serafina noticed the small wrinkles around his eyes. His arms were strong. He still looked like the man she once loved. Finally, Elias turned on the generator. The small lights came on. That should help for a while, he said. But we have to save power. Let's use the fireplaces to stay warm. Serafina nodded. I didn't know someone like you, so rich and important, could fix a generator. Elias smiled. I go on filming trips. Last year we made a show about climate change in faraway places. I learned a lot. Serafina was surprised. He had changed. He had grown. And he did it without her. For some reason that made her a little sad. They went upstairs and brought in more wood from the porch. The wind howled loudly. Snow was already piling up so high it reached the windows. As they placed wood by the fireplace, Serafina remembered a trip they took years ago. They had gone to a little cabin in Vermont. It had snowed then too. They lost power and talked all night, dreaming about their future. Do you remember the cabin in Vermont? Elias asked softly. Serafina almost dropped the log. How did you? You had that same look, he said, like you were remembering something. That was a long time ago, she said. Only 5 years, he replied. But sometimes 5 years can feel like forever. Serafina stepped away. I need to check my work. She went to her bag. She needed a minute to calm down. Being with Elias again made her remember all the good things, and the pain too. When she came back, Elias was in the kitchen. We have enough food, he said, mostly things we don't need to cook. Serafina sat at the big table. I need to get ready for my presentation. Even if the team doesn't come, I want to be prepared. Of course, Elias said. I'll make something to eat. Serafina looked surprised. You cook now? Elias laughed. Not really, but I can make soup and sandwiches. Soon, Serafina was drawing her designs and Elias was making soup. It felt like the old days when they lived in Brooklyn, quiet, calm, and kind of nice. I saw your interview in Architectural Digest, Elias said as he gave her a bowl of soup. You talked about how buildings can help people connect in this busy digital world. You read that? Serafina asked. I read everything about you, Elias said. Your ideas are amazing. We're trying to do something like that in our studios. You are? She said, feeling a little jealous. My team, he explained. After what happened to us, I try to make things better. Fraste. We stop filming every 2 months so people can go home and rest. Serafina raised an eyebrow. So you learned about balance after our marriage ended? Elias looked down. Yes, but I learned too late. The wind blew harder outside. The storm was getting worse. Serafina asked, Is it true what they say about you and Elise Monroe? Elias laughed. Elise? No, she's going to marry my sister. Your sister? Catherine came out 3 years ago. She and Elise met at a fundraiser. The magazines always get it wrong. Serafina felt a little embarrassed. I'm happy for Catherine, scat. She looks happy in the pictures. She is, Elias said. After dinner, Elias cleaned the dishes while Serafina worked on her project. "You've done really well," she said. "Your last movie won an Emmy." Elias dried the last dish and said quietly, "Not everything is perfect." Before Serafina could ask more, the satellite phone rang. Elias picked it up and talked for a minute. "The storm is worse than they thought," he said. "No one is coming for at least 48 hours. The phone is the only way to talk to the outside world." Serafina felt nervous. They were really stuck here. Just the two of them. It was night now, but they couldn't see outside. Snow covered the windows. They sat in opposite corners of the big room. Serafina worked on her designs. Elias looked at his tablet. Finally, Elias put his tablet down. "You know," he said, "we could use this time to go over your project. I'm the main investor. You could show me your ideas." Serafina didn't know what to say. Talking about work with Elias had always felt very personal, but this was a big chance. "Okay," she said. She spread out her drawings on the coffee table. The fire crackled beside them. Serafina pointed at her plans. "Most media campuses are closed off from people, but I want this one to be open. People can walk in, watch how shows are made, and even take part." Elias leaned in, listening, like breaking the fourth wall with buildings. "Exactly," she said, excited that he understood. "Here, the rooms can change. They can be for movies one day or a town meeting the next." Elias looked amazed. "This is smart. You've always known that the best stories come from real people living real lives." Serafina sat quietly, thinking about the past. She remembered late-night talks with Elias about telling real stories and building special places. Elias had always worried that if he became too successful, he would forget the simple, real-life moments that made his early work so good. A sad look came over Elias's face. "That did happen," he said. "After you left, I got really busy. I opened new studios, made shows for streaming, and worked with people in other countries. My company, Vision Vance, was doing great, but the stories I told felt empty." Serafina was surprised that he was being so honest. "What changed?" she asked. "I took a break after one movie didn't feel right. I worked on a documentary for 6 months and remembered why I started making movies." He looked at her. "You were right. About everything." Serafina looked away, not sure how to respond. "We should get some rest. It's been a long day." They didn't say much as they got ready for bed. Elias told Serafina to sleep in the main bedroom. He would sleep on the couch to keep the fire going. "Good night," Serafina said quietly as she stood at the stairs. "Serafina," Elias called. She turned back. He looked serious. "I'm sorry. For all of it." She nodded, not trusting her voice, and went upstairs. In the bedroom, she sat on the bed, shaking a little. Only one day into seeing Elias again, and she already felt her walls coming down. She had spent 5 years building a life without him. She had started her own company, won awards, and designed buildings that would last forever. But now, one snowstorm and one day stuck together, and she felt herself beginning to care again. What scared her most wasn't that he was the same. It was that he had changed. Maybe he was someone she could fall in love with again, even more than before. The thought made her shiver, and not because it was cold. The storm outside howled louder, matching her mixed-up thoughts. They still had at least 2 more days stuck together. 2 more days of facing old feelings. 2 more days to remember why she had loved him and why she had left. The next morning, the storm was worse. Snow covered the windows, and it looked like they were in a snow globe. Serafina found Elias already awake. He was putting more logs on the fire. He handed her a warm mug of coffee. "The generator still works, but I'm saving power. The satellite phone works if you need it." "Thank you," she said, careful not to touch his hand. "Did you sleep?" "A few hours," he said. "I try to sleep on a schedule." They spent the morning checking the house. It was safe, but there was a small leak in an upstairs room. Snow had gotten through a broken roof tile. They put buckets under the leak and moved the artwork. They worked well together, talking only about what needed to be done. Still, Serafina noticed how easily they worked as a team. It reminded her of old times. They found a small library with books and board games. "At least we won't be bored," Elias joked. "I'm not worried about that," Serafina said. "I have work." Elias's phone made a sound. He checked it and said, "The investors moved the meeting to next week if the weather clears." Serafina felt both glad and disappointed. "I should have been back in Chicago by then." "Plans change," Elias said, "sometimes for the better." She gave him a sharp look. "Is that what this is to you? A lucky accident?" "I didn't say that," he said calmly, "but I am glad we can talk. It's been 5 years. What is there to talk about? We made choices. You chose Vision Vance. I chose to be on my own. Is that what you think? That I picked my job over you?" "Didn't you?" she asked. "You missed my father's funeral. He had finally accepted me, and you said you'd be there, but you went to a film festival." "It wasn't about the festival," he said. "The Chinese investors. There are always investors, always a deal, a premiere, a reason why we had to wait." Elias's jaw tightened. "You never thought my work mattered as much as yours. You said buildings stay, films are forgotten." "I said that once when I was angry after you missed our anniversary again." "And your work wasn't demanding? How many dinners did I cancel because you were working late on some big design?" "That was different," she said, even though she knew it wasn't really. "Was it? Or did you just think your work was important and mine was just fun?" he said, sounding hurt. "You were building communities. I was just making movies." "That's not fair," she said softly. "I respected your dreams." "But you didn't respect the work it took," he said. "I built Vision Vance from one tiny movie that everyone thought would fail." "I know," she said, "but at what cost?" They stared at each other. All their old pain was right there between them. "You chose your stories over our story," Serafina said, her voice cracking. Elias looked hurt. He stepped back. "I need some air," he said, and walked to the mudroom. "The storm," Serafina started, but he was already putting on his coat and boots. "I'll be fine. I'm just going to the porch." The door closed behind him. Serafina watched him shovel snow outside. His movements were strong and quick. After 30 minutes, she couldn't see him clearly anymore. She got worried and looked for warm clothes to go after him, but he had taken the only winter boots. She sighed and checked his bag for a flashlight to signal him. She found a fancy wooden box. Her name was carved on it, Serafina. She knew it was private, but she couldn't stop herself. She opened it. Inside were special things from their time together. Her sketch for the Brooklyn house design, old movie ticket stubs from their first date, pictures of her at her building opening, of them at Thanksgiving, of her sleeping at her desk. There was also a USB stick labeled Serafina Projects. Later, she would find out it had videos of all her buildings, like interviews with people who lived in them and more. At the bottom was an envelope with her name on it. The letter inside was written 1 year after their divorce. She read, "Serafina, there are many reasons not to write this, but after a year without you, I can't lie to myself anymore. Losing you was my biggest mistake. I made movies about human connection, but I didn't fight for ours. When we met, you believed in me. That scared me. I didn't think I was good enough, so I worked harder. Every success made me more afraid of losing it all. Work was how I hid. It kept me from being open with you. Every time I picked a meeting over a moment with you, I was choosing fear over love. Missing your father's funeral was terrible. What you don't know is that I was on the plane home. I turned around, not for the festival, but because I was about to get funding for a documentary about people losing their homes from climate change. I thought it was the right thing. I was wrong. Since you left, I've been going to therapy. I'm facing my fears." Elias wrote a letter many years ago, but he never sent it. In the letter, he talked about the one relationship that mattered the most to him, his love with Serafina. He said he had made his company, Vision Vance, work without him always being there. He said he had learned something very important. No matter how many awards or things you build, they don't matter if you have no one to share them with. He realized that Serafina had been right about many things. Serafina once told him that her buildings would last longer than his movies. But now, Elias thought that maybe buildings and movies were not what really lasted. He believed the most important thing was how we help others, love people, and care without wanting anything back. He didn't send the letter because he thought just writing wasn't enough. Instead, he did something real. He started a special group to help young architects from poor communities. He didn't put his name on it because he wanted it to be about the people, not about him. He also gave money to start art programs in neighborhoods where Serafina's building stood. He hoped this would show respect for the dreams she always had to create places that helped people live better lives. He didn't expect Serafina to forgive him. He didn't expect to get another chance. He just wanted her to know that losing her changed him, not because it made him sad, but because loving her made him want to be a better person. The letter was 4 years old. Serafina read it twice. Her eyes filled with tears. She could feel how honest it was. This wasn't the famous man who talked on TV. This was the real Elias, the man she had loved, the man who always knew how to say big feelings in beautiful words. Then she heard the door open. She looked up and saw Elias standing there. Snow covered his coat and hair. He looked tired, but his face changed when he saw her holding the letter. "You read it," he said softly. Serafina nodded. She couldn't speak. Her hands were shaking as she held the letter. Elias walked slowly into the room and took off his snowy coat. He was moving carefully, like he needed time to think. "Why didn't you send it?" Serafina asked. He sat down across from her. He ran his hand through his wet hair. "Because it wasn't enough," he said. "You deserved more than just words on a page." "You wrote this 4 years ago," she said. "4 years, Elias? And all this time?" "All this time what?" he asked. A little of his old anger came back. "You walked away, Serafina. You said you didn't want anything to do with me." "Because you weren't there," she said. "Not just your body. You weren't really with me. Even when you stood next to me, it felt like you were somewhere else." "I know," he said. His voice was soft and her anger faded. "I know that now. Back then, I was so busy trying to build my company that I didn't see I was losing something much more important." "This foundation you wrote about," Serafina said, holding the letter, "is it real?" He nodded. He didn't look into her eyes. "I gave it $5 million at first. Then I gave it $10 million last year." Serafina's eyes widened. "The Howard Peters Foundation? The one that helped the East Side Art Center?" Elias nodded again. "I named it after your father." Serafina was shocked. That group had helped so many of her projects, like building art spaces in poor neighborhoods. She never knew it was Elias's money. "And the art programs in my buildings?" she asked. "It's called Vision Vance Community Initiatives," he said. "We started programs in 8 of your buildings so far." He finally looked at her. "I never used your name. I never took credit. It wasn't about me. I just wanted to honor what you always believed. Buildings need people and love inside to truly come alive." Serafina felt so many emotions, confused, grateful, and a little sad. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. Elias looked hurt. "If I had come to you a year after our divorce and told you I was helping people and giving money, would you have believed me?" She stayed quiet. She might have thought he was doing it to make himself look good. "I needed to change for me," he said. "Not to win you back, but because losing you made me realize who I had become. I was a man who told stories about other people, but I wasn't living my own life." Outside, snow kept falling, covering the world in white. Inside, something between them began to soften. The walls they had built between each other were slowly coming down. "I don't know what to do with this," Serafina said, pointing to the letter. "With any of it." "You don't have to do anything," Elias said gently. "I know it's 4 years too late." Serafina looked at him closely. His face had changed over the years. It had more lines, more stories. But in his eyes, she saw something new, not just hope, but honesty. The real Elias, the one she had once shared dreams with in their Brooklyn bedroom, the man who had been too afraid to show his heart before. Then suddenly a loud crashing noise came from upstairs. They both jumped up. "The roof!" Elias shouted and ran up the stairs. Part of the roof had broken. Snow and water had crashed into the bedroom. "We need to move things and fix this fast," Elias said. For the next hour, they worked together. They saved furniture and found things to patch the hole. It was hard work, but it gave them a break from all the emotions. Afterward, they were tired and wet from melted snow. They sat by the warm fire. "Thank you," Elias said. "You've always been good during problems." "So were you," Serafina said. "For a CEO, you're good at fixing things." Elias smiled. "I've learned to be more hands-on in life." Serafina heard what he really meant, not just fixing roofs, but fixing his life. "The programs in my buildings," she said, "they've helped so many people. The East Harlem Center, the kids' film workshop, it's changed that neighborhood." "I know," Elias said. "I visit sometimes, in disguise, of course." "Why a film workshop?" she asked. Elias looked at the fire. Because I want those kids to know their stories matter, that they are important. I didn't know that when I was a kid." Serafina felt something move inside her heart. This was the Elias she had loved, the one who wanted to give a voice to people who were never heard. Somewhere along the way, that part of him got lost under business meetings and money, but it had never gone away. "I saw your climate change videos," Serafina said. "The ones about coastal towns, they were very good." Elias looked surprised. "You saw them?" "I've watched all your big projects," she said. "Alone, always telling myself it was just for work." Elias looked touched. He didn't say anything for a moment. She thought he might reach for her hand, but he didn't. "I've been to all your building openings," he said. "I stood in the back, wearing a baseball cap like a movie star hiding from fans." Serafina laughed at the image. "We've been like planets," she said, "going around in space, sometimes close but never together." "I've missed your mind," Elias said. "The way you think. It always helped me see the world in a better way." Serafina smiled. "I've missed that too. Our long talks. No one else ever understood both the work part and the heart part of what I do." Outside, the snowstorm still howled, but inside, something was melting between them. Under all the pain and time apart, they still shared something strong. "It's late," Elias said. "We should rest. Tomorrow we'll fix more things." Serafina nodded. She was very tired, not in her body, but in her heart. "Good night, Elias," she said. As she started walking upstairs, Elias called her name softly. "Serafina." She looked back. "I'm glad you found the letter," he said, "even if it's 4 years too late." In the quiet room with snow falling outside, Serafina looked at him closely, not as the man who hurt her, but the man he was now, a man who had tried to become better. "Maybe it's not too late," she said. Then she went upstairs, leaving Elias to think about her words all night. The next morning, Serafina woke up. It was quiet. The wind had stopped. Sunlight came through the window and made the snow outside sparkle. She went to the kitchen. Elias was there, already dressed and making coffee. The generator was still on, but the room felt brighter with the sun shining. "Morning," he said, and gave her a warm mug. "The storm stopped about an hour ago," he said. "I checked the house." "How bad is it?" Serafina asked. "The roof needs a real repair, but our patch is okay for now. The road is still covered in snow, but help is coming. They're starting to clear the roads." He pointed outside. "We're still alone for today." Serafina nodded. She didn't know how to feel. Part of her was happy to hear that. Part of her was a little sad. She had started to enjoy this time away from the world, a quiet space where they could talk again. After breakfast, they went outside to see the house. Snow was very deep. Everything looked white and clean, like a magical world. "It's beautiful," Serafina said, Her breath made clouds in the cold air. "It is," Elias said. But when she looked at him, he wasn't looking at the snow. He was looking at her. The snow was falling gently. Everything around was white and quiet. Serafina and Elias stood close, not saying a word. It felt like a very special moment. Serafina looked away. Her heart was beating fast. "We should check the outside," she said, trying to sound normal. "Make sure nothing else is broken." They walked slowly through the deep snow, checking around the retreat house. When they were done, they stopped at a high place where they could see the whole valley. The valley looked like a white sea with tall, dark trees full of snow. "I've been thinking about your idea," Elias said, standing beside her. "The idea you shared about the media campus." "What about it?" Serafina asked, wondering why he was talking about work now. "It's amazing and really smart, but I had a new idea last night," he said, his eyes full of excitement. "What if we let people from the community live and work there too? Like a special place where they can learn and create stories with the filmmakers." Serafina liked the idea right away. It felt right to her. It would bring real people and professionals together to share stories. "Yes," she said. "We can make rooms that change shape for different needs, walls that move, spaces that change like the stories." They kept talking about it as they walked back to the warm house. They were working together again, just like they used to. Elias talked about how to make stories flow. Serafina thought about how the buildings could help the stories. Back inside, they sat near the fire. Serafina found her old sketchbook in Elias's bag. She had seen it before, with his things. "Can I look at this?" she asked. Elias nodded. She opened it and saw that Elias had written notes beside her drawings. He had written kind and thoughtful comments. "You actually read my notes?" she asked, feeling touched. "Of course," Elias said. "Your ideas about space and experience changed how I tell stories. There's something I use in every film now that came from your idea about how people move through buildings." Serafina looked at him, surprised. "Really?" "Yes," he said. "In the climate change film, we used your idea of emotional doors, places where people feel a change." Serafina felt moved. She had thought Elias forgot all about her ideas after they split up. She didn't know he still cared about their work together. "I want to show you something too," Elias said. He opened his laptop and played a video called Spaces That Speak. Serafina watched quietly. It was a film about the buildings she had made, but not just showing how they looked. It showed people talking about how those buildings changed their lives. Families said they felt safe. Kids said they loved going there. Old people said they felt respected. "When did you make this?" she asked, her voice soft. "Over the last 3 years," Elias said. "When I had time away from other jobs, I wanted to show how your work really helps people." Serafina felt tears in her eyes. It was exactly what she had wanted her buildings to do, to help people connect and grow. "It's not done yet," Elias said. "I'm still collecting stories. I go back to the same places again and again." "It's beautiful," Serafina said. "Thank you for seeing what I was trying to do." "I always saw it," Elias replied, "even when I didn't say it." They spent the morning going over her plans for the media campus. The investor meeting had been moved to the next day, so they had time. Elias gave ideas from a storytelling view. Serafina added them while keeping her original vision. They worked together easily, like in the old days. As they worked, Elias looked at her and said, "The other couple coming for the meeting is stuck. Roads are still bad." "So it's still just us here?" Serafina asked. "Yes. Is that okay?" Serafina looked into his eyes. "Yes, I think it is." Later, they moved to the big room and spread papers on the table. They kept working. But slowly, their talk moved from work to personal things. "I've been following your career," Elias said, "not just going to events in secret. I've really been watching how your designs have changed." "How so?" Serafina asked. "Your first buildings were super smart, but kind of cold. Lately, they feel warmer, more real. Like you're not afraid to make mistakes if it means making people feel more. Serafina smiled. My therapist would agree. It took me 2 years to realize that. I study how people change in stories, Elias said. It's what I do. And what about you? What would a movie about your life show? Serafina asked. A man who built walls to protect himself and then found out he locked himself inside, who learned that success without people to share it with is just lonely. Serafina reached out. Maybe it's not too late. They started talking about things they had never said before. Serafina talked about her father, who wanted her to be a professor, not an architect. She told Elias how hard it was to be a black woman in a world of mostly white men, and to marry a white man from the movie world her community didn't always understand. We never really talked about how hard it was, she said. I was always the only black woman at your events. People thought I only got chances because of you, not because I was good. Elias nodded. I didn't help. I didn't even notice. I should have. At the Whitney fundraiser, Serafina said, the board chairman kept asking you about my work. You didn't stop him. I remember, Elias said, and I was wrong not to speak up. But that night, you listened to me for hours, Serafina said. You didn't get mad or try to explain it away. You just listened. I remember thinking how hard it must be, Elias said, to always prove you belong. It was, Serafina said. Still is, but I've learned to stand tall and not say sorry. I see that in your new work, he said. It's powerful. They kept talking, sharing old memories. Some were happy, some were sad, but for the first time, they really understood each other. Soon the sky turned pink and gold as the sun went down. Elias added more wood to the fire. Serafina made a simple dinner. Remember that restaurant in Barcelona? Elias asked. The chef made a special meal for us after hearing your idea. Serafina laughed. He was so excited about food and buildings together. That trip was special, Elias said, before we got too busy. Before everything got too big, Serafina agreed. Elias looked sad. I should have made more time for us. It wasn't just you, Serafina said. I was also too busy. I didn't want to give up my dreams. They were quiet for a moment. If you could go back and change one thing, what would it be? Elias asked. Serafina thought, I would have told you I was scared. Scared of what? Of disappearing. Of becoming just your wife. My mom gave up her dreams for my dad. I didn't want that. I never wanted that for you, Elias said softly. I know, but I was so afraid that I didn't let you help me. I didn't accept support when I needed it. And I, Elias said, would have told you I was scared too. Scared I wasn't good enough, that I would fail and everyone would say I was a fake. I always tried to look strong. I should have shown you the real me. Their honesty brought them closer. They had never talked like this when they were married. Now they were open. Now they truly saw each other. We've both grown, Serafina said. Yes, Elias agreed. But maybe we could have grown even better if we had started here being honest. They didn't answer that question, but it stayed with them. As night came, they sat on the couch by the fire under a blanket. The wind blew outside, but inside was warm. They talked about what had happened in the years apart. Elias told Serafina about his sister coming out as gay. It helped him learn how important it is to live honestly and be your true self. Serafina talked about the person who helped her feel strong again after her divorce. It was an older black woman, an architect who had worked hard in a tough job many years ago. Serafina smiled and said, "She told me something I never forgot." She said, "Your buildings will stand for a long time, but the spaces between them are where life really happens. Don't forget to design those spaces in your own life too." Elias, who was listening, nodded slowly. "She was right," he said. "I spent so much time making special places for other people, but I forgot to make space for my own feelings." Serafina looked at him gently. "I think I did something like that too. I was busy telling everyone else's stories, but I didn't take care of my own." Elias looked surprised. He understood what she meant. They both had been hiding in their work, using it to stay safe from feelings. Then Serafina asked softly, "So what about now?" Elias spoke quietly. "Now I want to live in my own story, not just tell other people's." His voice was calm and warm, and the fire nearby glowed softly. Serafina felt herself leaning a little closer to him. She was drawn to his honest words. She could finally see the real man behind the famous media boss. They stopped talking for a while and just sat quietly. The fire crackled. Outside, the sky was full of stars. The storm had passed, and the snow-covered land sparkled in the moonlight. "It's getting late," Elias said, but neither of them moved. "Yes," Serafina said, still sitting close to him. She could feel how warm he was under the blanket they shared. "Serafina," Elias said, like her name was a question. She turned to him. The way he looked at her made her heart beat fast. He looked like he wanted to say something important. "I know we said we'd take things slowly," he said, "and I respect that. But I need to tell you, I've never stopped." Suddenly, a loud cracking sound from outside cut him off. Both of them jumped up and ran to the window. They saw a big pine tree, heavy with snow, break and fall. It crashed right on top of the already broken part of the house's roof. The sound of wood breaking and snow falling was very loud. "Oh no," Elias said, already heading toward the stairs. "We need to check how bad it is." Upstairs, it was not good. The roof patch they had made earlier was broken again. Snow was coming in and water was dripping down the ceiling and wall. "We need to act fast," Elias said. "We have to move the equipment before water ruins it." Serafina picked up some cameras and sound gear. "I'll start taking these downstairs. You fix the roof again." They moved fast, like a team. Elias climbed on a table to reach the roof, while Serafina carried the expensive things to safety. They didn't need to say much, they just worked together. At one point, Elias slipped a little on the wet floor. Serafina caught his arm quickly. "Be careful," she said, holding him steady. They looked at each other. They were standing very close. For a moment, it felt like the rest of the world faded away. Elias looked at her lips, then back at her eyes, as if asking if it was okay. But then more snow fell through the broken roof, and they quickly stepped apart and got back to work. When they finished, they were both tired and wet. They had saved the equipment, but the bedroom was a mess. Water was all over the floor. "We did what we could," Elias said, brushing his wet hair back. "We'll need real workers to fix it now." They went back downstairs, changed into dry clothes, and met again by the warm fire. The emergency made them feel closer. They had to trust each other, and that brought them together. "Thank you," Elias said, handing Serafina a glass of wine. "You were amazing up there." "We're a good team," Serafina said. It was true. They had always worked well together. Their different strengths made them stronger when they were a team. That was how they had built their work and their marriage. Elias looked into the fire. "I've had a lot of time to think about why we didn't work out," he said. "It wasn't just me working too much or you being too perfect." "Then what was it?" Serafina asked gently. "We were both hiding," Elias said. "I hid behind my big career. You hid behind being strong all the time. We were scared to really be seen." Serafina felt like his words were exactly right. "I was afraid that if I slowed down, you'd see I wasn't really that special," Elias said. "Just a man with big dreams." "And I was afraid of losing myself," Serafina added. "I didn't want to be just your wife, just part of your story." Elias nodded. "So I ignored you, and you pushed me away with your independence. In the end, we lost each other." The truth hurt, but it also made her feel lighter. For 5 years, Serafina had told herself that Elias chose work over love. But now, hearing his side helped her feel more peace. "I've watched your career," Serafina said, "even the smaller projects. That film about refugee artists, it was beautiful." "That was a special project," Elias said. "That's the kind of story I wanted to tell when I started." "You found your way back to that," Serafina said. "I had to," he replied. The big movies paid the bills, but they didn't feed my heart. After you left, I realized I lost my true purpose. The firelight glowed around them. The retreat house felt like its own world, far away from everything else. If you could go back, Serafina asked, what would you do differently? Elias thought for a while. I would be braver, he said, brave enough to tell you when I was scared, instead of hiding behind work. And I would ask for what I needed, Serafina said, instead of hoping you'd just know and getting mad when you didn't. They were honest now, in a way they hadn't been in a long time. It was a little scary, but also important. Is it too late for us? Elias asked quietly. That question had been there since they got stuck together in the storm. Serafina looked at him carefully. She saw the real man, not just the memory of her old husband or the famous businessman. I don't know, she said honestly. We've changed. We live in different cities. The same problems could come back. That's true, Elias said. But we're wiser now. We know what to look out for. It takes more than just good feelings, Serafina warned. Real change is hard. I know, Elias said. He ran his hand through his hair, a move she remembered so well. Trust doesn't come back in just one weekend. It's not just about trust, Serafina said. It's about our patterns. We're still the same people, still busy, still driven. You're right, he said, but now we know what happens when we choose work over connection. I've built a big company, but it feels empty sometimes. You've built beautiful spaces, but stayed away from love. His eyes looked into hers. I've learned that success means nothing if no one really knows you. I've learned that too, Serafina whispered. I'm not asking for a happy ending today, Elias said, leaning a little closer. I'm just asking for a chance to write a new story. Together, one page at a time. Serafina felt touched. This wasn't the old Elias who made big promises but didn't do the small work of love. This Elias had changed. He had thought deeply about his mistakes. I would need to see that the changes are real, she said carefully, that when things get hard, we don't go back to our old ways. That's fair, he said. What would that look like to you? Serafina thought. Time without phones, honest talks about work and boundaries, helping each other while still having our own dreams. I've been thinking about opening a studio in Chicago, Elias said. It would be for social documentaries. Serafina looked surprised. Chicago? That's where I live. I know, he said. It's a good city for business, but yes, it means I'd be in your city. No pressure, just a chance. Serafina felt a mix of emotions. He had really been thinking about how to get closer again. Just being close isn't enough, she said. I know, Elias replied. It's just one piece. Now their talk moved from the past to maybe a new future. It was exciting and scary. Serafina looked at his face in the firelight. He looked the same, but also older, wiser. His gray hair made him even more handsome. She had loved this man deeply once. A part of her still did. Without thinking too much, she reached for his hand. He held hers warmly. I'm not making any promises, she said softly, but I'm open to possibilities. Elias smiled, hope in his eyes. That's more than I hoped for when I saw you at the airport. He slowly leaned toward her. When she didn't move away, he gently touched her cheek. His thumb moved softly across her face. Serafina, he whispered again. She leaned forward too, and their lips met in a kiss that was both new and familiar. His hands moved into her hair and they stayed close, feeling the warmth between them. When they pulled apart, they were both smiling and breathing a little faster. Serafina felt a warm, happy feeling inside. It didn't feel like she was going back to the past, but it felt like maybe something new was beginning. Maybe her path and Elias's path would come together again. But just then, something loud happened. Ring, ring. The satellite phone rang and surprised them both. Elias stood up to answer the phone. That was emergency services, he said after talking for a moment. They said the main road is open again. A crew will come fix things by tomorrow morning. And the people who want to invest in the project will be here by the afternoon. Serafina felt both happy and sad. Their quiet time together was about to end. The world outside was coming back in, and soon they would have to go back to their regular lives. So tomorrow I'll go back to being Miss Hall the architect, and you'll be Mr. Vance the media boss, Serafina said, trying to smile even though her heart felt heavy. Elias walked over and took both her hands. Tomorrow we go back to our lives, he said kindly, but maybe they won't be the same as before the storm. Serafina looked into his eyes. He was thinking the same thing she was. Could this feeling they found again stay with them even after the storm was gone? Could they fix their love and make it even stronger? One step at a time, she said quietly, holding his hands. No big promises, he agreed. Just two people trying to write a better story together. His smile felt like sunlight after a very long, dark night. Outside, the stars were shining in the sky. The storm was over. And maybe something new was starting, or something old was being reborn, changed by time and care into something strong. The next morning came with blue skies and the sound of snowplows on the road. Serafina stood by the window and saw the first trucks coming to fix things. That meant their time alone was truly ending. Sunlight came through the windows, making little bits of dust dance in the air. The cabin smelled like warm coffee and wood from the fire. The soft crackling sound from the fireplace made everything feel cozy. Serafina and Elias moved around each other, quietly talking. Sometimes their hands touched as they worked, and every touch reminded them of their growing closeness. Serafina listened to his voice as he spoke on the phone. She noticed how he filled a room with his presence but never took up too much space. He had changed in a nice way since their divorce. "They're doing a good job," Elias said, standing beside her. He didn't touch her, but he was so close that she could feel his warmth. The road should be clear by the afternoon. Serafina nodded. Her feelings were mixed. She missed her normal life with her office, her meetings, and her projects. But part of her didn't want to leave this cabin and the special time they had shared. "The investors will be here by 3, Elias said. "You'll have plenty of time to get ready for your big presentation." "My materials are ready," she said, smiling. "We did great work yesterday." They looked at each other. They both knew she meant more than just the building plans. They stood quietly together, watching the trucks below. "About last night," Elias said carefully, "I just want you to know, I don't expect." "I know," Serafina said kindly, cutting him off. "No pressure, no promises." Elias looked so relieved, but in his eyes there was also something else. Hope. "I meant what I said," told her. "About Chicago, about going slow, about wanting to try again." "I meant what I said too," Serafina replied. "One step at a time. Let's see if what we found here can stay alive in the real world." He smiled. "The real world has always been our challenge, hasn't it? You build amazing places. I tell stories. Maybe that's why we always felt so close," Serafina said. "We both love change. You use words to tell stories, I use buildings. And both need a dream of what could be, not just what is," he added. They spent the morning getting the cabin ready. Serafina watched him as he worked. He moved with confidence and stayed calm. He smiled when he caught her watching. By early afternoon, the road was clear. Trucks came to fix the roof and stop the snow from coming inside. Elias helped them get started and told them what to do, just like a movie director. Serafina saw how good he was at handling problems and thinking about the big picture. She had always admired that about him. "The investors should be here soon," Elias said, walking over to her. "How do you feel?" "I'm ready," she answered. "Our changes made everything better. The idea of mixing community stories with big professional studios is really special." "It is," Elias agreed. "Your idea is amazing, Serafina. It will change how people make and share stories." Serafina felt warm inside. Elias's words meant a lot because he really understood her dream. Just then, they heard cars arriving. Elias looked at her. No matter what happens with us, I want you to know that working with you again has been eye-opening. I forgot how much you add to my ideas. I feel the same, Serafina said softly. We were always better together, creatively, and maybe in other ways too. Before she could say more, voices filled the cabin. The investors were here. Elias and Serafina quickly became professional again. Miss Hall, the architect, and Mr. Vance, the media man. But inside, something private and special remained. The presentation went perfectly. Serafina spoke clearly and passionately. She explained how her design would let community and professional stories grow together. Elias didn't try to take over. Instead, he helped her. He shared smart ideas that made her plans even stronger. When someone asked about money, Elias stood up for Serafina's ideas. This design isn't just about making movies, he said. It helps new voices be heard. That's good for business and for the world. By the end, the investors were very happy. They not only approved the plan, but said yes to the newer, bigger version Serafina and Elias had made during the storm. Serafina looked across the room and saw Elias smiling at her. His smile held a private message. We did it, and maybe, just maybe, there's still hope for us. When the business talks ended, real life came back. The roads were open now. It was time to go. Serafina had to return to her work in Chicago. Elias had to go back to his media company in Los Angeles. I arranged 2 cars, Elias said as they packed. One for you, one for me. Serafina noticed what that meant. He was giving her space and showing respect. He wasn't trying to rush anything. He wanted to let things grow slowly, if they were meant to. They stood at the door, ready to leave. It felt a little awkward. After spending such deep time together, saying goodbye like this felt strange. You said something about opening a place in Chicago? Serafina asked. Yes, Elias said. I'll be there in 2 weeks to look at buildings. I know some cool places that used to be old buildings. They might be perfect, Serafina offered. Elias smiled. He understood what she was really saying. I'd love your opinion. We can talk about it over dinner, she said, trying to sound casual. Just business, of course. Of course, he agreed, but his eyes said more than just business. I'll call you when I know my travel plans, he added. Elias opened his bag and took out the wooden box. Her name was on it. This is yours, he said. Everything inside, the letters, the little things, it all belongs to you too. Serafina took the box and gently touched his hand. Thank you, she whispered, for this, for everything. He stepped closer and touched her cheek gently. Thank you for a second chance, or at least the chance to try. They kissed softly. It wasn't a big kiss, just a sweet promise. Serafina felt lighter, like a heavy weight was gone, one she had carried for 5 years. They walked to their cars together. In front of the drivers, they acted like professionals, but inside they both felt something different. Elias pulled out his phone. Let's stay connected on the drive down, he said. These mountain roads can be tricky. Serafina smiled. She understood. He wasn't trying to control her. He cared. I'd like that, she said, turning on her own phone. So they left the retreat in 2 cars, but they stayed in touch. They talked the whole way down the road. It was a lot like their story now. 2 different paths, staying close together. As Serafina's car turned a corner, she looked back one last time at the cabin. So much had changed there, but she didn't feel sad. She didn't feel scared. She felt sure. No matter what came next, the storm had given her something special. She had learned that even hearts that felt closed for a long time could open again. That second chances were real, and that sometimes getting stuck in a storm was the first step toward freedom. Her phone beeped. It was a message from Elias. Just past halfway, thinking about that dinner in Chicago, maybe not strictly professional after all. Serafina smiled and typed back slowly. Maybe part work, part something new, one scene at a time. Elias's reply came right away. I'll bring the script. You bring the blueprint. Together, maybe we'll build something that lasts. Serafina held the phone close to her heart and smiled. Serafina looked out the window and saw the big mountains turn into small hills and then into a long open road. She thought, some trips bring you right back to where you started, but when you return, everything feels different. She had learned something very important. When people love the same things, it can bring them close together, but it can also push them apart. This is what happened to Elias and Serafina. When they worked together and shared their ideas, they made beautiful things, better than anything they could do alone. But when they stopped listening to each other and each only did what they wanted, it made them grow apart. They both went into their own little worlds where they felt safe and in control. They found their way back to each other, not just because of the snowstorm that made them stay in the same place, but because of how much they had grown while they were apart. Elias learned that winning prizes and being famous didn't matter if he didn't have people to share it with. Serafina learned that beautiful houses and perfect rooms felt empty without someone special to enjoy them with. They both saw that when they listened to each other's ideas, their dreams got even better. Their story teaches us something important. The biggest changes in our hearts can happen in the quiet times, between being sad and being happy, between saying goodbye and saying hello again, between what we once had and what we might have again. It teaches us that real happiness isn't about how many things we have or how many awards we win. It's about staying open to learning, to growing, and to starting something new, even if it's a little scary. Sometimes our most special stories haven't even started yet. Have you ever seen someone again after a long time and found that they were different in a good way? Did you give them another chance? What made you do it? Tell us your story in the comments. And if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button and become part of our Royal Story family. Like this video if it made your heart feel warm, and leave a comment to share what you think. Let's go on this story adventure together. Dear Royal Family, always remember, when big storms come into our lives, they can help us see what's really important. Sometimes we need to let go of all the noise and busy stuff to hear the quiet truths we've been hiding from. What would you do if you had one snowy chance to fix your love story? Tell me in the comments. We'll be back tomorrow with another royal story full of love and hope, even in the hardest times. Until then, this is Sage King saying, you deserve a love story that feels like a fairy tale. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.